choose to pick for their first starting location. And from the get-go, we have a piece of heart at the sanctuary, or no, piece of heart at Link's house, 20 rupees at the sanctuary.
Pretty abysmal as a starting item, I would say.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Man, looks like we have a lot of different routes going on here. Just at once, 2 people going to Uncle Cave, 1 going straight to the Lumberjack Tree area, and 1 just going straight for Kakariko immediately.
Looks like level 1 triple will be some bombs. Pretty useful.
Definitely. Yeah, getting those first will save a lot of, at least 50 rupees from having to get those anyway. Okay, ChauncyJay checking out the tavern. We're going to have a small shield. And in the Lost Woods, we're going to be given a power glove. All right.
It's always fun to see that early on.
Yeah, definitely for sure. I mean, that is 1/3 of the Dark World access required. Anyway, sorry for that sudden pause right there, guys. Just making sure everything is synced up as best as we can. We also have a heart container on the Lumberjack Tree. We do not know if Aghanim will be required just yet, but we do know for sure that it will not be for that item at the very least.
Yeah, it's a relief to not see a key there at least.
Yeah. When you see a key there, you just don't know if you'll need that for sure until you get to the later points of the seed, and that'll always be on the back of your mind. So we got a big check right here in the Kakariko greenhouse. Looks like in here we got the Moon Pearl. That's another Dark World item that we need. Got some more rupees.
Got a small key from the chicken hut.
Ooh.
Was a Ganon Tower small key.
That's a little less exciting, but still. Doesn't hurt, I guess, to get 1 or 2 of them anyway. Ooh, the hammer. Wow, all of the Dark World access items being in the Kakariko Lost Woods area. Also a key to Dark Palace, also in the Kakariko well.
Yeah, having access to Dark World this early could prove to be very fun to see the routing on these guys.
Yeah, that's true. When you're given Dark World access immediately, it's just kind of like opening up everything and going, okay, here's a bunch of different directions you can go to. Why don't you pick one and see where it takes you? I imagine some of our runners, though, will probably stick with Light World items first, just to get kind of the bigger checks out of the way.
Yeah, at the very least, checking, I think, Mini Moldorm Cave is one of the standard approach to this.
Mm-hmm. So while we're seeing basically recovering old ground that we've already seen, just a little info for those who may not know what exactly Keysanity is. It's basically the normal item randomizer of Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, with the added addition of keys and dungeon items also being in the item pools. So you can find a key, compass, map, big key, for a different dungeon in a new dungeon altogether, or even on the overworld. So there's still a lot more items they have to be on the lookout for while they're going through this seed.
Yes, there's still plenty to find out. I mean, like you said, there's so many things to get, including keys, that it just began 5 minutes ago. So, well, it's going to be interesting. Past these few small locations, we always see each debut of a seed.
Right. And we actually do see WinDEU not really even checking the race game item, but just going ahead and going straight into the room. That is actually a play that a lot of racers will take with Keysanity because of the added addition of keys. It's more likely for there to be an item up here, but unfortunately in this case it was just for a compass, so not going to bother picking that up.
Yeah, compass is unfortunately still pretty useless even in Keysanity, but the map could be a bit more useful regarding information-wise.
Mm-hmm. Also, was that a fire rod at the library?
I did miss it, but I will get a few more chances to look at it. I believe you're right.
Yeah, that is a fire rod at the library. We do need an ether medallion inside the dam, though. So because of that fire rod in the library, I would not be surprised to find early boots or getting boots at least some point in the near future, just because of the usefulness of the fire rod and the fact that you do need it to clear 3 potential dungeons.
Yeah, it's one of those items that even as a weapon is very useful early on.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Mini Moldorm, not really paying off. I mean, it does give him a lot of rupees to use, but not really anything substantial that will advance the logic of this seed. We also checked the back end of Escape. There was a bug catching net and a small key to Turtle Rock back there.
Yeah, those are very important small keys in Turtle Rock. Even if it is a pendant, there's so many items inside Turtle Rock that it's usually not skipped.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that is true.
Now, the mini Moldorm Cave did not give out much, like you said, but it did give out a few maps, which could be useful once they decide to do a map check here and there. I know a few runners tend to go for early map checks as soon as they find the correct map for the correct world, of course.
Yeah, because in Keysanity, they actually do give the maps and compasses some different features to make them a little more, I guess you could call them viable, I suppose. The maps will let you know whether or not a dungeon is a crystal or pendant. It does not give you that information otherwise, so you either have to get the map or beat the dungeon to find out what it's going to be. Very quickly, a cape in the ice cave, so that's nice. And the compasses, they will actually keep track of the number of items that you've collected in a particular dungeon. While may not being super helpful for runners of this who are very aware of the item counts, for newer players it is something good to have if you're not entirely sure of what the dungeon counts are yet.
It looks like all the runners here are currently catching up to each other just in location-wise. We'll soon see a few more new locations.
Yeah, it looks like ChauncyJay will be the first one to show us what the Eastern Pass and Sashrala area will give us.
Maybe we'll get the dream and find a bow right here.
That is definitely the dream, but the big key to Eastern is still missing. Looks like we have a green pendant in the Tower of Hera. And nothing in the back of Sashrala's closet.
In the meanwhile, we have WinDEU going up, not up, but down inside the castle basement. And JohnRossums is fake flippering his way under the bridge.
Yes, he is. We have a heart piece on the Lake Hylian Island, so that's not going to be a major concern to him. The hobo does hand out a map to Desert Palace, so we could find out what reward that dungeon will give us.
So far, WinDEU has not found anything very useful inside castle basement, and I believe ChauncyJay didn't find something either.
Yeah, these two new checks haven't really provided much, but Finalflame taking a big risk and going straight to Dark World. So maybe we can find something here in the Hype Cave, or what used to be known as Hype Cave anyway. Well, the generous guy being very generous, handing out those silver arrows. But aside from that, no progression really in there either.
Yep, there's not much these guys have found to progress the seed so far, but given the items they have quite a few locations in the Dark World they can check too.
Mm-hmm. We do get a bottle of green potion inside Eastern Palace. That'll lead to one item, and I did not see what the bomb shop guy said.
It was Mire and Desert.
Okay, so we have two more pieces of information. But yeah, one of the cool aspects of, I guess, the map system that they have for Keysanity is... Oh, also, there's the lamp in the Haunted Grove from our good friend Stumpy, so that's nice. But with the map system, really there's only two specific maps we have to find. We have to find the maps that will give us the information on the red and blue pendants. Once we have that information, we can pretty much deduce what the rest of the crystals and pendants are going to be, because Sashrala gives info on the green pendant, and the bomb shop guy gives info for the 5 and 6 crystals. So it's really just those two maps that you really want to find early.
WinDEU making the play here for Skull Woods. We'll see if Skull Woods still pays off like it did in the older versions. It's also interesting to see how this seed has not given them a lot of hearts so far, which could prove a problem given that it gave access to the Dark World very early on. the enemies inside of here will pretty much the 2-shot or 3-shot them, so they need to be careful regarding that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and with no sword too. I mean, normally the game kind of expects you to go through Dark World with the Master Sword at this point, and you'll normally have about like 6, 7, 8 hearts, which WinDEU does have a lot of hearts right now, but still, with only green mail and no really reliable weapon, it can be pretty brutal getting through the Dark World.
They do have the hammer as a good weapon overall, but the hammer does have some pretty wonky hitboxes, as you can see here with the jellies.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was implying. The hammer is great, but that hitbox, especially when dealing with enemies like Gyptos, can be very unnerving if you miss that shot.
Now, I like ChauncyJay's play here of going into pod so early on. He doesn't have much, though. With only the hammer, not the bow, and 2 small keys, he'll be able to access a few items, but his exploration will still be limited in here.
Yes, it'll definitely be limited, but at the same time, there have been so many races where just taking that early dip in the Palace of Darkness can really, really pay off, just because there could be a lot of potential items, especially if you have the keys to get to certain parts of the dungeons. So it's honestly not a bad play to check, especially if they give you that access as early as they did in this scene.
Now, of course, without the bow, we cannot go on the bow lock side of the palace, so they will have to open the front door. So requiring at least 5 keys to go through all of this if they perform the well-known hammer yump trick. Otherwise, Palace of Darkness holds a total of 6 small keys that are usually needed to complete all of it.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, and right away, getting the mitts from Palace of Darkness. I think this was definitely a play that need to be made as soon as possible, because that can give them way more access.
Definitely, especially at that location. It's an easily accessible location in pod, and I do believe everybody has a small key, so it's not locked by any means right now.
Mm-hmm. Also, just having that easy shortcut through the one warp point in Kakariko. It's always better to have that as opposed to going all the way around like Finalflame is currently doing.
WinDEU also looking for making a small play here inside of Thieves Town, as the 4 chests in the beginning are able to be taken without any keys at all, so it's not a bad play.
Yeah, definitely not. If they do somehow come across that vanilla big key, they can go ahead and opt to maybe finish the rest of it. Unfortunately, they would leave the last chest behind as a result of that, but sometimes those are the breaks in Keysanity.
Yes, there's many places in Keysanity where sometimes you do need to come back in a dungeon multiple times. In fact, it happens so often that it's usually normal to do that.
Yeah, for sure. Ooh, ChauncyJay was trying to get that last second hammer jump right there, but unfortunately did not quite get it, but he is going to try again. Ooh, he gets it that time, though.
Now, he is in for a rough ride inside this room without a sword and a lamp. It's going to be definitely a harder room to go through.
Yeah, even a sword would just give him the ability to use a medallion, but unfortunately it doesn't even have that, so he has to be really careful getting through here. I think he just has to go up a little bit more, though, and he should have the last item. Just has to be careful on this one turn. Ooh!
WinDEU did find his bombos in the digging game, so that's another medallion, a more useful medallion that he did find.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that Bombos medallion, since who knows when they're going to be able to get that fire rod in the library, that Bombos medallion could be their only way through Ice Palace once they get a sword anyway.
Now, I do know that the myths are very, very useful in general, but right now it doesn't seem like it opens much for them. So what is the item they're missing for that next place to go?
That's a good question. Looks like ChauncyJay did find the Canis Samaria somewhere. It is highlighted on his tracker. Yep, he has it, so he can pick that up somewhere. Oh, I guess Sick Kid had it. Okay, that's interesting. But yeah, as far as progression is concerned, yeah, the myths don't really open too much. The one thing I could think of that they can do right now is, even though it's a little convenient without Mirror, there is the Swordsmith side quest in Purple Chest.
Indeed, there are definitely places they could look at, and of course, there is the Hammer Peg Cave that could be useful.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing they could also check, maybe a bit later on, is going up Death Mountain and rescue that old man.
Yeah, that's true. That is within logic now with that glove and lamp being available. But yeah, many runners will opt to kind of put those little fetch quests on hold until they have the mirror, just because it makes it a lot faster. But sometimes the fetch quests will give you the mirror, so you just kind of have to sometimes bite the bullet and do that quest, even though you don't really want to at that point.
Yeah, you don't have a choice at some point to just do whatever the seed is kind of proposing you to do.
Right. Okay, yeah, WinDEU is making that play, so we will be seeing some new items here in a small bit. The play on Death Mountain, anyway. And the old man gives another small key to Dark Palace.
Now, there's still another location they could check, which is what is inside of Spectacle Rock here.
That's true.
Only a big 20 though, and bombs on top, so that's not very useful.
Oh, wait a minute. We also have a hammer and an invincibility item. Yeah, I think we have a spike cave check too.
What a payoff. Hookshot in the spike cave. And
Yeah.
given the limited number of hearts and magic he had there, that's a great find.
Yeah, that really is a great find, and as you can see, JohnRossums actually saving quit without checking that, so that could be a huge advantage that WinDEU has going into that particular race. A reminder, of these 4 runners, the top 2 are racing each other, and the bottom 2 racers are racing each other, but they are all racing on the same seed. It's 2 races, but 1 seed for anyone who has come into this race late.
Now, WinDEU will be able to clean up most of Death Mountain here, but since he did not go into pod yet, the Dark World side will be left alone for now.
Mm-hmm.
Given that he does have the hammer, though, we might see a short dip inside of Tower of Hera.
Yeah, that's true. Tower of Hera is accessible right now, only for 2 chests, but still, it's not uncommon for progression to be up there if you can get to it. And we do have our first sword from East Death Mountain.
Yep, quite important inside of randomizers. Although we don't see a lot of swords all the time, they usually tend to be very late, as I can see in these different seas. Still very required, at least to a Master Swords.
That's true, and yeah, we do have information that both Turtle Rock and Misery Mire are crystal dungeons, so yeah, we will need the use of a sword just for medallion purposes, so that's one good reason to get that sword early. There's also a few other places where you need swords, and got another sword in Tower of Hera, so in just a few minutes, WinDEU is already up to Master Sword.
Also picks up the flippers in Hera. That, man, just for those 2 items alone, that was a nice tip.
Yeah, 2 items of progression, and I believe that also puts Ice Palace in the logic now.
Oh yeah, that's right. Given that he does have the big key for Ice Palace, that's gonna be interesting, because without a small key, it's gonna take a bit more routing inside of it. But given that most players can do the Ice Palace bomb jump, it's not gonna be a problem overall.
Yeah, it can definitely be full cleared right now, and it would be a sensible play. Unfortunately, it would be it would mean going into a pendant dungeon, but again, Keysanity. Sometimes that's what the game is wanting you to do.
Oh yeah, especially when you're looking for still a lot of items so far. There's plenty of stuff to go explore down there, so might as well.
Chad does make a good point, though. He does not have the mitts yet. I overlooked that fact because only ChauncyJay has the mitts right now, but we do know where they are. So maybe after he goes to pod, we can see that. But for right now, yeah, probably not going to see that.
Opting to use his flippers a bit more. Going to look into the waterfall here, and we'll probably see what Zora has to offer today.
Yep, he has the rupees for it.
It looks like the swordsmiths today only decided to make some counterfeit rupees.
And he had to pay for those counterfeit rupees too, which just seems kind of off to me.
Hey, they just needed a bit of a few real ones to give out a lot more.
I suppose so. And just a compass from Zora, that is probably a life lesson WinDEU did not want to have right there.
Still interesting, given that they're still fluteless, mirrorless, and bootless, meaning that their traveling around is pretty slow again.
Yeah, it really is. That is like the one unfortunate thing here, and also, like we know earlier, we do know the boots are blocking a very important fire rod too, so it must be not the most pleasant of feelings to go around with lacking those items.
Now, Finalflame is making his way through Pod, and he does have one more key than what the previous runner had when he wasn't here. So maybe we'll see what that an additional chest in the later part has.
Yeah, I think it's very likely we'll see what that chest has. And yeah, with the lamp, it'll be a lot safer to move through that room as well. Meanwhile, JohnRossums is making his way through pot as well. I think he also came in with 4 small keys, if I remember correctly. So we'll probably see some stuff on his end too. Really curious to see how JohnRossums is gonna. Okay, he is gonna use this key right here, which means if he does want to get the other chests that are in Palace of Darkness, he will have to use the hammer yump technique. And looks like he is going to give it a shot.
It's always impressive to see it, given how I think most people did not do it before the Keysanity tournament started.
And that's very true, and he gets it. Cannot open the big chest yet, but he can go in here and is already going to have a much easier time than what our previous runner did when he was in here. I believe that was ChauncyJay. And it's a big key to Turtle Rock.
Now that is an interesting big key to find there.
It is, and it's going to be a key that's ChauncyJay is going to be leaving behind for a bit. Now, you'll probably have to go back to Palace of Darkness anyway, and just picking up then. But if for some reason Turtle Rock is somehow in the logic before that, it could be a while before he gets that big key.
Finalflame deciding to save and quit out of pod. Probably decided that banging his head against a wall for getting a trick was not worth the while. We'll see later on if that pays out or not.
Yeah, I think that Turtle Rock big key was the only thing of major worth that was in there. And like I said, a second visit to pod would not be out of the realm of possibilities to happen in this race, and ChauncyJay has to do that as well anyway, so doesn't lose a whole lot of time by having to do that.
WinDEU is making his way through the Palace of Darkness here, about to pick up his gloves too. He's going to be able to finally go everywhere pretty much he wants on the Dark World side.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, it really is looking like Ice Palace might be the play. So I want to say everything else was checked at this point.
Well, there could also be something on the dark side of Death Mountain with the mist.
True. Yeah, I almost forgot about that. Yeah, that could also be a thing. And that might not be a bad idea to go up there just for some extra intel on what could be required.
Yeah, they could get what is required to enter Turtle Rock as a medallion. So, like you said, more intels. It's always good in Keysanity. It helps your routing a bit. Turns out Swamp is a crystal, which is going to soon probably be checked once they find a mirror. I think it's the only thing pretty much blocking them from entering Swamp, of course.
Right.
Won't get very far without a small key, but that's besides the point.
This could be one of those seeds where, like, the small key 2 swamp could be in that first chest.
It could be. It's one of those rare instances. It could be, but let's hope not.
Yeah, it's not as common as it was before the fix they made to Keysanity before the tournament, but that doesn't mean it can't still happen, because it can.
Finalflame picks up his magic cape here. Maybe he's gonna push him in the right direction and looking what is on top, inside of a spike cape, that is. Because once you have a bottle, a protection item, and a few hearts, it gets on your mind very fast as a location.
Yeah, and this is one of those seeds where checking that location early could really, really benefit you, because WinDEU has a lot of opportunities right now with that hook shot.
I think WinDEU has a good idea here.
Yep, I think he's making the Ice Palace play. I was thinking about it before he stepped on that portal. Do I really want to commit to this right now? But he is going inside.
It's definitely going to be a not a time waste, I would say, but an important check to make inside here. Without a small key, he'll have to do, of course, the bomb jump and route away every chest in here just to just to get everything that it is inside. In the meanwhile, it does look like ChauncyJay did find himself his hook shot.
And he is immediately going to use it to his full benefit, and we are more than likely going to see his East Death Mountain checks, his Hera checks, and then right afterwards, he's probably going to check the Dark World of Death Mountain, and that could also give us some more information on where exactly the seed wanted us to go.
I'm still hoping for Ice Palace.
Yeah. Ice Palace is definitely like one of those gambles where you take the gamble knowing that people don't like going to Ice Palace. So if it does end up being something worthwhile, it's a very, very strong play. It did have a Turtle Rock key, so that is something.
It's important to know that with 3 keys to Turtle Rock, that's still a lot they can explore in there, even without the Fire Rod.
Mm-hmm. Besides, the mitts could be, or not mitts, the boots could be further in there, which is how they'll acquire the Fire Rod to begin with.
Oh, yeah. I could see that happening. Boots in there, gotta go back to the library to get your Fire Rod, and then just try to find your Ice Rod that could be pretty much anywhere in the world.
In fact, I believe it was in Finalflame's first race for this Keysanity tournament. I know this because I was his opponent for that race, but it was a case where the mirror was deep in Turtle Rock, and it required you to kind of backtrack a little bit to go to Mimic Cave to find the Fire Rod, which was in there. So, you know, it's very possible for that could be a occurrence in this particular seed too, just with the boots instead of the mirror.
Man, that's quite evil.
Mm-hmm. Okay, looks like ChauncyJay has his Master Sword now, and the other two runners still don't have a sword.
Yeah, they really have to go up Death Mountain at this point and try and explore it to get their hook shot and get across to have access to both of these swords. Finalflame here has a pretty great idea of checking that first chest in the castle tower.
That's true. Maybe this was the play the whole time, and we just didn't know it.
Catfish giving out a small key to Dark Palace.
Putting more keys to that dungeon in the logic. I think we are finally going to see the Dark Death Mountain play from ChauncyJay.
Yeah, the way JohnRossums is going right now, he's about to pick up his hook shot.
Yeah, that's going to be good for him. Because aside from that small key to Turtle Rock, I have not noticed anything major in Ice Palace yet.
WinDEU is up for a pretty rough fight the way he's going right now. With only a few hearts on green mail, it's going to be a interesting fight, I would say, against Cold Stare.
I think he still has a fairy. If he only has one bottle. Maybe he did not get that bottle with a fairy in it. Anyway, here's the hookshot cave check.
Decides to go pick up an extra fairy on his bottle. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, I can agree with that play. And I believe the big key to Desert Palace was found in Hookshot Cave, but unfortunately that was that's not a location you can get to at this point.
Yep, and there still need to be either mirror. Oh, I'm sorry, not the mirror, but the flute or the. I think the book, yes,
The book,
to be
yes.
accessed.
So let us see what is on Cold Stare instead. WinDEU being very, very careful in this fight, which is good. You need to be. Took a hit right there.
Yeah, from all three puffballs going in pretty much random directions and the ice falling from up top, is you really need to dodge pretty much everything. And the Master Sword, well, it doesn't do much damage, but he gets through the fight all right.
And let's see what he's going to drop. He drops just a piece of heart, so this was not the the progression the game wanted us to do.
Yeah, so far that's pretty much a bust. Of course, it's not. Maybe it's not a total bust, as we still do not know what is on the pedestal.
That's true. Yeah, pedestal could definitely be in play at this point. So now that those two plays are essentially done and over with, my next prediction is I do notice the Hera small key was found, and it looks like JohnRossums is in this area, so we will get a check here. This could potentially be something as well. Flute.
There's your progression. Now there's finally a bit of movement option in this game. Now, flute means that right now they will be able to go into the mire area.
That is true, and depending on medallion requirements, Meyer could be checked for some items as well. So yeah, according to chat, the small key to Hera was actually in the purple chest, so our runners will have to do some unfortunate mirrorless fetch questing if they want to get that small key and get that flute. So yeah, it looks like Finalflame is doing the Swordsmith quest, and we'll probably do the purple chest right after, so he'll be getting that small key very, very soon. JohnRossums doing his Dark Death Mountain exploration. ChauncyJay going to be in Ice Palace for a bit, and WinDEU just picked up the map that he found in the Agate Tower. So what is the next play, runners? What is the next play?
I pretty much think the flute is the key here. There's not much else. At least the seed is very streamlined that way that there's not many locations left really to do.
Well, Turtle Rock is Bombos required to get in. Unfortunately, that would require a save and quit from JohnRossums to actually get there, but I imagine you might want to probably check the flute stuff before thinking about that place. Okay, looks like JohnRossums is going to be starting at Sank, so he is going to be activating that flute, so we will be seeing some Misery Mire area.
Yeah, just activating that flute right now is a pretty much good idea. Gives you a easier access to everything after this.
Mm-hmm.
It does look like Finalflame has a small blank here, trying to figure out where his next move is supposed to be.
He may have just figured it out, though, because he did go to Death Mountain as his starting location.
Bringing out that cape like that, yeah, pretty much. Of course, he will need that hammer beforehand, but
Yeah.
he gets the idea.
And unfortunately, JohnRossums is now also making the play on Ice Palace. Oh, and I think we do find out that Skull Woods is the last pendant dungeon. I just saw that on the map, I believe. So from that, we know that we know the boots cannot be on the pedestal since we need the fire rod to get into Skull Woods. So that's one pedestal dream location removed.
Finalflame just found his hook shot and decided to leave a few presents to the old man.
What did the old man have to do? He didn't put the hook shot there.
Either way, now he can progress a bit further in this seed and be able to find his swords.
Mm-hmm.
And of course his flippers. Now I think at this point, ChauncyJay is doing what I would probably do too, is try and enter Turtle Rock with a few keys and try and see if there's not something useful in here.
That's right, and he will be the first runner to do so as well, just because I believe our other runners unfortunately took the portal that was on the foot of Death Mountain, so as a result, they couldn't open this and had this way. So yeah, ChauncyJay giving us some new information here that will could potentially even determine where the next move will end up being.
Oh. That's a nice find here. The big key for Ganon's Tower. It's one of the items that could be pretty much anywhere.
That's true. So if anyone had the first chest in Turtle Rock as their Ganon's Tower big key location, congratulations. You have won the unofficial guessing game for this race.
At least it wasn't in Ganon's Tower for once.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I commentated enough race already that a big key for Keysanity was in the Ganon's Tower.
Yeah. I don't think I've actually commentated any races like that, but I can imagine that can be a very trolly thing to happen just because you don't expect it to be there in Keysanity. To answer a question in chat, the fire rod is actually at the library, so they will need the boots to get that.
Oh wow, ChauncyJay just found a big key to Thieves Town inside the vanilla big key chest.
Ooh, and Thieves Town is a crystal dungeon too, so that is very much gonna be required.
It was an interesting play to check that, as usually we see a lot of players just steal that key to progress further inside Turtle Rock, but it seems like ChauncyJay doesn't have the big key for Turtle Rock, so decided to check that chest instead.
Yeah, I think that was a good play from him, and he is definitely going to benefit from that play in his race, because Finalflame does have the big key, so if he were to make that same play to go into Turtle Rock next, he might do something entirely different, which could shift the race in ChauncyJay's favor even more.
Now we're about to see JohnRossums face Cold Stare. Will be sorely disappointed with the reward, but could still be a useful item for later on to check on the pedestal if it is required. It's more often than not, I don't think the pedestal is required even in Keysanity, but I think it holds more value just because you need a lot to just either check it or just get the item that's there.
Right. I think a big reason for the pedestal not being required as much in Keysanity is because you don't need necessarily pendant dungeons to get into Ganon's Tower, and because of that, items that will be required to beat pendant dungeons can be in Ganon's Tower. So that just in general kind of takes the odds down for something to be on pedestal. Unfortunately, Finalflame is not opening the portal on top of Death Mountain, so he will not be able to take that step into Turtle Rock.
Phew, I was holding my breath a bit for this fight.
Yeah.
Decided to go with the hammer approach, which is a bit more dangerous, but does more damage to Cold Stare in the end.
Anyway, in Thieves Town, I believe all we've found so far is a small key to Castle Tower, which will put one chest in the logic right now. So there is the second item in that area could be found, and that could be something. Also get a boomerang inside the maiden chest.
And now we'll see what the Mire area holds for us, as JohnRossums decides to go explore there.
And looks like we do have info that the Ether Medallion is what's required for Misery Mire. Okay, so at 1 hour and 6 minutes into the run, we finally have our first crystal. But for Keysanity, that's actually not too surprising.
Yeah, it tends to do that a lot, since you do need so many keys to go through these dungeons.
Yeah, you really have to think that with Keysanity, it literally adds more walls into dungeons. So because of that, it can take a lot longer to clear some of the dungeons.
And ChauncyJay just finds his small key for Tower of Hero and decides that it's probably the next step to take, or not. But he's definitely doing better and going to find his flute. It only needs a small check to that tower now. It's interesting that he decides to go check the other tower instead.
Mm-hmm. So one thing WinDEU has over ChauncyJay at this point is that he actually had one extra small key to Turtle Rock in addition to some of the other items. So he's going to be able to go just a little bit further. Although ChauncyJay still needs that Turtle Rock big key as well.
That's a nice find. The small key for Desert Palace. Of course, they still need a mirror or the book to be able to access the dungeon, but once they do, it's pretty much clearable, except for the item on the torch, because again, the boots are required for that one. Now, with Laser Bridge coming up, that could be a great place for find a few more things. I'm really hoping for a shovel there.
Well, one thing we do have in Misery Mire, we have the Misery Mirror. So now we have some more things we can check.
The mirror and the boots?
And the boots. What are those? I didn't even see those. I got excited about the mirror, and apparently the boots were gotten before that.
That's really a great find. Both of these items were blocking so much. Now it's not very clear where the next play is, but at least it gives a lot of options.
Yeah.
Though as we know that the fire rod is in the library, so that would probably be one of the next things to do.
Yeah, that'll also open up a lot, because that not only opens up Skull Woods, but it also opens up 2 chests back in Turtle Rock as well. So yeah, this whole time, Misery Mire was definitely the play. Looks like WinDEU having a little bit of trouble in the laser bridge. Do not blame him. I do not like laser bridge myself.
Yeah, without the boots or mirror shield, are really a good way to skip all of those annoying lasers. It can be pretty awful to go through.
He does make it through and gets rewarded by the pig key to Tower of Hera.
He did also get a small key for Misery Mire, so I think that kind of puts him at ease at going for either dungeons.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he is still missing for that flute, so Tower of Hera looks pretty nice right now.
Oh yeah, it would be. He actually still needs the small key for Tower of Hera, which would give him even more worth. Looks like he is heading to Dark World though, so this may be the point where he does get that small key anyway.
It looks like ChauncyJay is going for his second trip inside of Pod. Will find himself his big key to Turtle Rock, I believe, was in the back.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, that's right, because he did unfortunately take that death in the dark maze, which was literally dark when he went through it.
Yeah, did not have the lamp at that time.
Okay, just a small key to Ganon's Tower on Lanmolas, but we do get a crystal. That is JohnRossums' first crystal. But with the boots and mirror, that does give him a lot more options over our other runners right now.
Yeah, definitely. If I had to say who has the advantage overall, I'd say he's in a pretty good position.
Mm-hmm. It looks like he is going to grab his fire rod now.
Fortunately for ChauncyJay, finding the big key for Turtle Rock and an additional small key will send him back in there, which we'll know it's not exactly the right way. He needs to go towards Mire, but without the small key required for the Tower Hera, well, he does have it, but he needs to explore that to get his flute.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, while both ChauncyJay and WinDEU are making, some progress with clearing out Thieves Town, it's, again, the play on Misery Mire that's going to really kind of take this seed up another level for them. And until they get that hint to go back to Hera, they're not going to be able to really make much ground right now over the other runners who already have the flute.
WinDEU does make quick work of blind here and picks up his first crystal. I gotta say, so far this has been a really rough seed, given how the logic wanted them to just go all over the place, one item at a time.
Yeah, that's really what it's amounting to right now. Just a lot of different directions, and it seems like at some point each racer has really kind of exhausted all of their options more than once. So it's definitely one of those really heavy bottleneck seeds that just kind of require one item to kind of progress things along, and unfortunately it takes a while to get that one item.
With that said, I want to give a shout out to these 4 racers giving us an awesome show tonight. So if you guys like what you're seeing, please leave them a follow.
Definitely. Also, major shout outs to our 2 trackers for this race, KK the Egyptian and Itsu Demo. Definitely, and it's like we said in chat earlier, commentators I think would be really, really lost without their trackers, so it's nice to have them along for the ride to kind of just check those things that we as commentators miss sometimes, so it's definitely very good to have them around.
Indeed. It doesn't look like it, but you know, when there's 4 people playing at the same time, you tend to miss some stuff. So having 2 trackers help us try to figure out what's going on, it's quite useful.
Yeah, for sure. JohnRossums did finish up Mothula, gets his blue pendant, and thankfully remembers that he had 1 less chest to check in here, so he does go back and grabs that.
In the meanwhile, it looks like WinDEU is going up Tower of Hero.
He does have that big key, so he would be the first one to actually complete this dungeon.
And there's the mighty shovel. It was a nice bunny sprite for the Sonic one.
Yeah, I love that sprite just because Super Mario World's probably my favorite game of all time. So it's always a pleasure to see that sprite. So with the pendants as easily accessible as they are, honestly, I would not be surprised to see a pedestal seed being potentially the thing here.
Now, it does seem that we forgot to give a big shout out here to the bow inside of Hero.
Oh wow!
was quite interesting as to place a bow right here. Is of course Moldorm could still have something too. We already know that Moldorm is a green pendant, so that has an additional value.
For sure.
But so far, Hera has been a gold mine for items. I mean, the bow, the flippers,
The flute.
the flute, so many good things.
Can we get a fourth item right here? A big key. It's a misery mire. I think that counts.
It's right. It was also a master sword in this
Oh,
place.
that's right.
Everything was in Hera apparently.
That's 5 items in Tower of Hera. Yeah, Duke did skip the flute, but he is grabbing it right now, so you will have that. I also think Dude's kind of setting up a death warp right here. I would not take a bunch of floor tiles to the face voluntarily, that's for sure.
Now, Finalflame is about to hit the end of Turtle Rock here on the laser bridge. It's gonna get a few keys, but nothing much.
Meanwhile, ChauncyJay looks like he is now gone back to Tower of Hera. Will be kind of mirroring what WinDEU has already done. Gonna get all of his items and then hopefully go back in for the flute as well. For those of you asking about kind of who is in the lead right now for this particular race, it is kind of a hard call to make just due to the nature of Randomizer and Keysanity in general. And as far as like the top race is concerned, I'd give the advantage right now to ChauncyJay, just because he is in Tower of Hera where he needs to be. He'll be getting all the items that he needs to kind of make his next move. And as far as the bottom race is concerned, it is a bit of a toss-up. JohnRossums is going to be looking at some new content here, which could progress him even further in the lead. But WinDEU, if he gets his flute and he goes straight to the mire area, that could be huge for him because he'll have all the items that JohnRossums currently has a bit of an advantage on and should get things caught up a little bit. But maybe at this point, just a slight lead to JohnRossums, but it could seriously change on a dime at this point.
Yep, it all depends on the last remaining items they need to find, such as Ice Rod and a few big keys everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we're going to see what's in these 2 chests in Turtle Rock. Just a heart piece and a small key to Misery Mire.
Yeah, so trash.
At this point, yeah, I think I would agree that was kind of a trash find.
I mean, of all small keys you could find outside of maybe Gant's Tower, Misery Mire is probably one of the small keys you don't really want to see.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so yeah, it looks like WinDEU will be putting the Misery Mire play into action. Unlike JohnRossums' opponent before him, he will be able to full clear it, and that is also a 5 and 6 crystal as well.
And it looks like WinDEU did turn in his green pendant, and Sahasrara had the ice rod.
Ooh. That okay, so that's 6 items from Hera now.
A tower that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it really, really does, that's for sure. Looks like our good friends over in the chat are still wanting that pedestal seed, going as far as to suggest book being on the pedestal, which will lead to keys on tablets.
I mean, I would not predict it just because it already happened on his feed. I did commentate on, so
yeah,
redundant.
Anyway, Finalflame did get his ice rod as well. Showed a little anger at Sahasrara before he left, giving him a nice sword beam in the face, but he looks like he's going back to the eastern area at this point. But he does not have that big key for eastern yet. That's another key that's still hasn't been found just yet.
Yeah, I think he just realized it.
Okay, yeah.
Small time loss, but you know, at least he didn't make it all the way back to in the back of the dungeon before hitting the door and looking. What's that? You need a big key?
Yeah. And we do have another big development. It turns out the big key to Palace of Darkness was in Mimic Cave.
That's terrible.
Yeah, what is the seed right now? Hera had everything, and all the other items are just like giant fetch quests almost.
I mean, wow, that Mimic Cave location is going to be so bad. Wow. The mirror is in Mire, the bow is in Hera, so there's things all over the place.
Yeah, there really, really is. Finalflame still needs the big key to Turtle Rock, which was in the Palace of Darkness Dark Maze, so He still has some work to do before he can even finish Turtle Rock.
Yeah, that's right. I believe he did save and quit out before going in the maze, so he will need either another small key or well, he could maybe find a vanilla small key. There's still two small chests on the Bollock side that is not locked anymore, of course.
Okay, so we have our Tempered Sword and the Misery Mire Big Chest. Oh yeah, I guess he did get the he did get the big key to Turtle Rock. This seed is just scrambling my brain right now, just with all the different routes and all the different places the runners have gone for all these items.
Yes, this is truly what Keysanity has to offer in the end, and that's pretty much things everywhere. And it's funny too because unlike maybe open mode where even the worst open mode seed tend to be towards 2 hours and a few minutes, the difference between the best and worst in Keysanity varies in like an hour.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so we do have 3 runners in Misery Mire right now, which is good for them. They're going to get all the items they need to potentially finish up more of the seed.
At least we get to see a very relaxing Vitreous fight here on WinDEU's side.
Yeah, getting silvers early is really nice, especially once you get that bow. It just makes a lot of boss fights and just some skirmishes in general a lot more smooth.
That was a minor thing we forgot to say about earlier. There was a blue cane inside Mire. Not a big find.
Okay.
Not a big find, but still.
Yeah, usually once you get the cape, you kind of forget about the Cane of Burna, just because cape really kind of does the same thing that Burna does, with just the exception of being able to give you an actual item that Burna couldn't. So you kind of forget about Burna and don't really care or need it that much once you have cape. Okay, so Finalflame about to start his fight with Vitreous, and that will actually be his first crystal.
Now we get third runner who gets his tempered sword. ChauncyJay just got his from the big key chest inside of Meyer here.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't look like it, but tempered sword is very useful overall. Just for the Ganon fight alone, it makes it so much easier to fight him.
Yeah, and with Tempered Sword and Silvers, the Ganon fight is probably none of our runners' concerns at the moment. They just kind of want to find the rest of their items that they need and get straight to the end as soon as possible, because they've probably had enough of this seed already with just some of these locations and the incredibly loaded Tower of Hera.
Looks like WinDEU will go get his fire rod right here. I'm still wondering, did anybody check the shovel location yet?
I don't think so, no. I don't think that's been checked at the moment.
Maybe we'll see that check on WinDEU's side, as he did not simply save and quit out.
I forget. Wasn't the shovel in Hera?
Yep.
Okay, well, it's definitely going to have something if this seed has taught us something, taught us anything.
I mean, it has to at this point, no?
Yeah, yeah, really. Oh, apparently CJ did, and it was just 20 rupees.
Ah. Well, with what they have in right now, it looks like WinDEU is maybe trying his way for the first chest of Swamp Palace. It's I wouldn't say it's a great play, but kind of limited in options, and that may be just the required gamble you need to make to just have a way back into this race.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. And at this point, again, correct me if I am wrong, but I think for Go mode, at least at this point, we still need the Eastern Palace big key and that Swamp small key. So I think those are the only two items we still have to figure out where their locations are. Everything else has been at least found by another runner at this point.
So with only a big 20 in that first chest, WinDEU won't make it very far inside Swamp.
Mm-mm. And yeah, blind pulling the pedestal is a thing that could be happening as well.
I'm still hoping for a book on there. A blind pull a book is always fun. I mean, that's the only way to pull out a book, really.
Yeah, really. Okay, so Finalflame grabs his second crystal. Oh, and Pyramid Fairy is also capable of being checked at this point. Yeah, because Desert and Meyer were the 5 and 6, and that is exactly what WinDEU is going to do. Ooh, just a small key to Skullwoods in the Pyramid Fairy, and WinDEU does remember there is a second chest in Aghanim's Tower that can be checked now because the Castle Tower key was found. Oh, but he doesn't actually have it according to the tracker. Oh, but he does have it though. He does have it in inventory.
Only gets rewarded with an arrow upgrade, so
Yeah. Would be my reaction to at this point.
I do like what WinDEU is doing right now, going through Skull Woods, because right after he gets that pendant, he'll be able to blind pull whatever is on the pedestal.
That's true. And I think at this point, I mean, it is pretty likely that that could be something. I think the only other leads that we have right now is technically within logic, Trinex can be beaten, and we did find that big key to Darkness Palace inside the Mimic Caves, so that could be another location as well, potentially Helmasaur. But aside from that, yeah, I think at least in terms of number of items, this would probably be WinDEU's best bet at the moment.
Finalflame does get through his fight with blind. Not a very hard fight, as well equipped as he is.
And that does give him his third crystal, and Chauncey should be getting his third crystal very, very soon. So they'll be tied in crystal count at the very least. Okay, Finalflame has his fire rod now.
And WinDEU just completed his way through Mathura, so he will now check what's in this chest and be sorely disappointed by it, but he will be able to access the pedestal right after. And we will see if that play inside Ice Palace that pretty much everybody did will pay off. Now, Finalflame did unfortunately die to Cold Stare, so if it ends up having something on the pedestal here, he will need to go back there. But at least he's very well equipped to deal with that now.
Okay, here we go, guys. What is on the pedestal today? The small key to Swamp Palace.
The small key, the smallest of keys that you need pretty much most of the time. Wow. It blocks all of Swamp Palace except for the first chest. So that small key is a great find.
So now WinDEU is going to be going through Swamp Palace immediately. If he finds that Eastern Palace big key, he will be in go mode, I'm pretty sure. Oh, no, he's not. He still has to get the pod big key from Mimic Cave. Never mind, but we'll know at the very least. We'll be in no mode, so we'll know where exactly that is. Speaking of Palace of Darkness, it looks like JohnRossums is in there with that big key, so he could actually get pretty lucky if he does find the Eastern Palace big key in here, because then, at the very least, he won't have to go through all of Swamp. Okay, looks like the big key and pod, the big chest and pod had nothing, so JohnRossums is going to be making his way to Helmasaur now.
Yep, he'll be able to make short work of him with both the hammer to break off his mask and a single silver arrow to the face. Or should I say to the jewel?
Oh, yeah, that is correct. Okay, this is good for Finalflame. He is heading back to the pod area, so he will get his big key now. Big key to Turtle Rock, anyway. And that'll put him en route to going back there. But as you pointed out earlier, he will have a huge disadvantage just from that cold stare being required.
And WinDEU here just found the final key to Turtle Rock inside of Swamp here.
Ooh.
So that's a nice find.
Yeah, and okay, yeah, they will actually need that too, because there was no other way to get to the end.
Yep, it's one of those times where that chest that people tend to skip, where the big key usually is, was needed, because it was the big key to Thieves Town, if I remember well.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that is correct. It was the big key to Thieves Town. Ooh, it looks like we have our first male upgrade in Swamp Palace, but unfortunately, WinDEU forgetting to hit the crystal switch after flooding the room. So now he's going to have to go back just to hit that crystal switch again and then get that last chest.
Yeah, it's a minor mistake. Not as bad as flooding the key itself.
Yeah, flooding the key is much worse for sure.
looked like JohnRossums was scratching his head here for a moment and realized, hey, pedestal is available.
Yep, and that would be a good place to go right now. Especially considering that this could make the race a lot more even between him and WinDEU, who are, again, need to clarify for anyone who joins in the race late. This is actually 2 different races, not just one giant race. The top 2 racers are going to be competing against each other, and the bottom 2 racers are competing against each other, and they are all using the same seed. But at nearly the same time, both ChauncyJay and JohnRossums are pulling the pedestal to get their Swamp Small Key.
Finalflame making use of that cane to show us a very nice cane dash. Never gets too old to see that.
Yeah, and it looks like he's also going to go further so we can get his big key to Piles of Darkness inside Mimic Cave. And I'm going to go ahead and make a prediction. He might actually unleash some rage on that chest, just due to the history that he's had with this chest in this tournament. I believe both of his last races have had something in Mimic Cave, and I think he was even saying before the race in the race chat that he's wondering if there's going to be something in there again. We also find the last Palace of Darkness key in Swamp.
Yep, at this point it's not a very useful key, but for whoever is having trouble doing the hammer jump, it is within logic, at least.
Mm-hmm. Okay, are we going to see some Finalflame rage? Yep. It was minor, but still rage slashes nonetheless.
It is rage-inducing when finding something like that in Mimic Cave, but especially when your opponent hasn't finished, sometimes rage is not exactly their moment.
That's very true. That's very true. You can't spend a whole lot of time on that rage unless you are sure you can get away with it at the very least.
Yeah, given how this seed has been very trolly, I wouldn't spend too much time doing that, as your opponent probably did the same thing.
Because you got to keep in mind, at this point in the race, we are still not in go mode, nor do we know when go mode is going to happen, because that Eastern Palace big key is still out there somewhere. And at this point, it's looking like the big key to Eastern might be on Trinex.
Yeah, either that or some kind of fetch quest is on him. Be it the mushroom or the book.
Or even the powder.
Oh, yeah, the powder, that's right.
Okay, Finalflame is making his way back to Ice Palace. Or not, no, never mind. He's got some other stuff to check first.
Yeah, because of the logic of how Keysanity usually works, and you end up playing a trolley seed most of the time. I mean, with all the keys shuffled around, more often than not, you will have to make some weird gambles and go all over the place. So,
Yes, that is a very, very true statement.
it does happen that you can see some quick Cs. I mean, the 130 has been achieved many times so far in the tournament, but less often, let's say, than open or even standard.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of people say that if you have less than a 2-hour seed, you have a really, really, really good Keysanity seed. That's kind of the general statement that I hear people say about how fast Keysanity can go. And even then, like, a time of even 2 hours all the way up to 2 hours and 30, like, that's really, really not surprising. Even if your execution and routing is on point, it just depends on how far the seed will get you to travel in one direction.
And it seems like Chad is saying that WinDEU skipped Mimic KU.
Yes, he did. Ooh. That will make this race, in particular, the race on the bottom, very interesting because JohnRossums, even though he looks a dungeon behind right now, he actually did go to Mimic Cave and he did finish Palace of Darkness at this point. So at this point, he'd be going back to get that last big key, which at this point is going to be either here or it's going to be led to from here.
Yeah, this has to be maybe. This could be the mistake that could loosen the race. But since we do not know where the big key for Eastern is, there's still a chance. There's still a chance.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, very lucky. Gets knocks down the ice head just as he runs out of magic, so we have a small key to thieves. Oh my gosh. Okay, the big chest in Thieves Town now.
Down the rabbit go, the rabbit hole we go once more.
Yeah. Oh, and you know what he did? He just saved and quit away from Turtle Rock. So he'll be further away from Mimic Cave now. If he went in right after Turtle Rock, he would have been fine, potentially. But now, that's going to elude him for a while.
Fortunately, there's not a lot of locations left for him to explore.
No, there's not. So Meanwhile, it looks like ChauncyJay still needs to turn in his green pendant for Ice Rod, too, so he's also having an item elude him as well. To answer a question in chat, M Mimic Cave is the Palace of Darkness big key that will be required to complete this seed.
I think I've heard that the average number of chests people tend to open inside Keysanity is, I think 170, around that.
That sounds about right.
Anything that has more than that, that's closer to like 200, is definitely a lot. Especially when you consider that Ganon's Tower alone has, I think, what, 27 chests inside there?
Yes, that is correct. And at this point, I mean, Ganon's Tower, like, we're not going to really see anything from Ganon's Tower at this rate. They have the big key for that, so in a sense, it's not going to be 100% seed. I can imagine seeds that will still require you to go through Ganon's Tower, or quite a substantial amount of it, just to find stuff. But, yeah, for this particular seed, it's really, really close. I'd say almost close to what people call 100% seed, just because you have to clear all the dungeons, pretty much full clear all the dungeons at this rate, too. And, you know, all the fetch quests and all the overworld stuff has been checked at this point, I imagine.
Yeah, so far I've seen Ganon's Tower have the its big key inside of it twice, and I have yet to see it have a sword required in there. But it's gonna happen. It has to. It's the nature of Rando.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the more annoying instances is not having the Ganon's Tower big key, going to Ganon's Tower, and then finding an item in Ganon's Tower that leads to the big key. I've seen that a couple of times, and it's not fun. But anyway, have an important chest right here. Big chest and thieves, we have the powder.
This seed keeps on giving and giving more to commentate on.
It can still give. There's still other fetch quests on the table. This may not be the big key. Come on, give us the book. Book in the mushroom. Ah. Okay, we have our big key for Eastern now. So we are officially in no mode. So we know where all the items are, but no one is officially in go mode yet. Okay, ChauncyJay has his big key to Palace of Darkness. He doesn't have the Ice Rod yet, though.
I think we got it deep enough, chat. This is not bad. I mean, we did get in a single seed a required pedestal, and so many fetch quests. And
Yeah.
Tower of Hera that would not stop giving. I mean, by all means, that was quite an amazing race so far.
Yeah.
And it's nearing its end, but it still has a few small tricks that may give up.
And with that, at 2 hours and 10 minutes in, JohnRossums is in go mode.
Big key to Eastern being your go mode item. Now it's I can't talk anymore.
Okay, Finalflame getting his small key to Swamp. He's mad at the pedestal. Don't blame him.
It is true that WinDEU could still be brought into a more side quest if he finds something interesting on Armo, such as a book. He could be led into an awful places instead of where he should be looking inside Mimic Cave.
Yeah, and at this point, like, it's something I hate to say just because it is randomizer and anything can happen, but I think at this point it'd be a little too difficult for him to recover and at least beat his opponent, because JohnRossums is going to get his last crystal here, and he is going to be on his way to Ganon's Tower, and WinDEU has to not only remember that Mimic Cave has something, but then get that item and then come back down just for Palace of Darkness finish. So he is going to be continuing to lose time, while JohnRossums will be continuing to gain time.
Fortunately, a small victory for him. There's no book on Armos, but only Big 20. So
Yeah,
less locations, but still, like you said, he's behind right now, and it would take pretty much, I think, a few deaths to Ganon to make that much of a difference.
he is heading back up in the pod, saying that maybe he overlooked something, I imagine. Or, oh wait, okay, I think he's just realizing. Oh no, he's going this way. Well, actually, he may have not checked this side yet.
Maybe a big possibility, but he will be disappointed as this side only had 2 maps, I believe.
Right. Okay, JohnRossums has his 7th crystal, and he is going to be on his way to Ganon's Tower. I think the main thing on his mind right now is no one is finished yet.
Of course, as we've said, I'm pretty sure JohnRossums will be in the lead for a very long while here. But in the top race, it's a bit more difficult to say. I think Finalflame is a bit behind ChauncyJay, but ChauncyJay still has to find his powder and then his key to Eastern and all of that.
Yeah. Oh, he has to find his Ice Rod still. That's the one thing he needs to find.
Indeed. And the worst thing is he can find it pretty easily. It's Ashra that has it. but maybe he forgot about that. So
That's possible.
it's probably one of the worst things that could happen to you inside randomizers when you forget you have an item and just to check a location.
We do have a lot of people who have just kind of turned into this race asking for, I guess, the story, and it's a really hard story to really go into major details with, but basically what it boiled down to: small key of Swamp Palace on pedestal, five was it? I think it was 5 items in Tower of Hera, one of which was the green pendant, which led to the Ice Rod on Slashrala. And just a lot of back and forth, a lot of checking one dungeon for progression in another dungeon just to come back to the first dungeon later. Just a lot of this is just really taking all of our runners through pretty much every square of the map.
Yep, I wouldn't have said it better with all these running around. Another thing that did troll these runners a lot is the hook shot inside a spike cave near the beginning.
Ooh. Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's another one too.
Oh, this seed gave us it gave us a lot of entertainment. That's sure.
Yeah, for sure. If anyone is pretty much scared to try Keysanity after watching this, my own recommendation: don't be scared of it. Just try to have fun with it. Just keep in mind that, like, for your first few runs, don't try to complete it as fast as you can. Just kind of get used to the format of Keysanity, get kind of used to what is expected in a lot of these runs, and if you do ever want to start racing it or joining tournaments with Keysanity rules, just kind of keep in mind that, like, results can vary a lot in these races, and many things can happen, and it really kind of puts a lot of people on a more fair playing field, if anything. So it really is a lot more fun than it looks, at least in my opinion.
Indeed, there's so many things that you need to find that making a bad play inside of Keysanity is often difficult more than ever.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that completely. So ChauncyJay did get his Ice Rod finally. That is going to be big for him, because now he can at least finish Turtle Rock and start going down the road he needs to go to finish the seed. Finalflame still has some work to do. He's going to be finishing up Pod right now. Then he's going to be heading to Turtle Rock to finish that. So he's essentially just a Helmasaur fight behind ChauncyJay right now. A Helmasaur fight and a Death Mountain climb, basically. WinDEU, unfortunately, trying to retrace old steps, trying to figure out what exactly he missed.
Yeah, when you start to try and look at locations you've already been, that's where you mostly lose it all the time. It's so hard sometimes. It's a location, especially a thing like Mimic Cave. Maybe it's a location he thinks he already checked, which might be even worse.
Yeah, a lot of people group Mimic Cave with Turtle Rock, so when you're kind of done with Turtle Rock and you don't check Mimic Cave, you're just under that impression that, oh, well, Turtle Rock is done, even though Mimic Cave, not technically part of Turtle Rock. Also, thank you, Levon Firestorm, for subscribing to the Speed Gaming channel for your 3rd month in a row. Always appreciated. And thank you, I'm a greeting card, for also the Twitch subscription. Anyway, JohnRossums finishes up the Aga2 fight, just as Finalflame finishes up his Helmasaur fight, and ChauncyJay is working on his Trinex fight.
So DC will soon have a clear winner. Ganon just offering us a bit of knowledge on what burrito he likes.
Probably after this seed, I can imagine Ganon would be wanting to go to Taco Bell right about now or something.
JohnRossums is now in the 4th place of Ganon. Oh, did not get the torch glitch, but that might not matter, as he has a wonderful setup here for a double, and there's the 4th shot. That was a pretty good fight.
Yeah, really good. But yeah, get your GGs in chat, everybody, because JohnRossums finishes in 1st place with an official SRL time of 2 hours, 22 minutes, and 35 seconds. For a seed like this, that is very, very good. So definitely get your GGs in.
We'll be looking forward to see if JohnRossums wants to be interviewed. In the meanwhile, we still have a very good race going on between Finalflame and ChauncyJay up there, while WinDEU is still trying to get his bearings on where is that item he missed. Where is it?
And just a very quick reminder, with that win, that will actually take JohnRossums to 1-2 in the tournament. Unfortunately, because he has already accumulated 2 losses, he will not be able to advance any further in this tournament. The bottom race was kind of just for wanting to play out the rest of your matches in the Swiss stage of the tournament. But still, like, I always recommend runners when they're in a tournament like this, even if you are kind of out of the running early on, still finish your matches, get some extra experience in, get some extra practice in. And yeah, sure enough, he did win this race, so definitely major GGs to him for that.
Hey there, JohnRossums. What did you think of this seed overall?
Overall, it was crazy, crazy seed.
Yeah, that's the correct answer for this. It was a very nice show of you tonight. It was really awesome to see you go really through hoops almost through this seed, as all the keys and the items, oh man, all over the place, really.
Wow. I mean, I'm the kind of runner that always gets this like situation when the last item is the right item. In this seed, it was like 10 times.
Yeah, so many times was it the case. We could not count how many times. It just, I mean, with Tower of Hero having so many good items inside of it, and then the hookshot being inside of Spike Cave, and Pedestal being the small key for Swamp Palace, that was truly amazing to just see all of you, all four of you, trying to finish this seed.
It was like almost like a plan, though. I mean, for exactly since the from the pedestal check, I mean the pedestal pull, it was like almost like a linear seed from then.
Totally, I really agree with you.
Okay, so at this particular point, your opponent is completely lost. There is one item that is currently eluding him. Can you guess what that item is?
Let me check. I mean, he has everything item-wise. Let me check the keys. Oh, the pedestal pull.
No, actually.
No?
He's done Swamp.
Oh, yeah, he's done Swamp. Wow. Then it's the big key from Pod.
Do you remember where that big key was?
Oh, I don't. It wasn't like far. I mean, I got it like at the. I mean, like an hour or an hour and a half into the seed, I got the Pod big key. I don't remember where.
It was actually in Mimic Cave in Turtle Rock, the Mimic Cave.
Oh, you're right. Oh my God. Why he went like Turtle Rock without the mirror?
No, he had the mirror by that point. He just forgot to check it on his way up, and at this point may have accidentally marked it that he did check it. So that is currently what is holding him up at this point, and that is honestly what kind of determined this race, for better or for worse.
Wow, that really sucks. I mean, in my last match, I forgot that I had the big key of Palace of Darkness, so I was like 15 minutes looking for it, and I had it in my power all the time, so it was like really bad. I understand what he's feeling right now.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I've definitely had these moments, not just in Keysanity, but just in normal randomizer seeds. It's just one of those things that happens to every single randomizer runner at some point, no matter what your skill level is. It's a very common occurrence. It's something that just always seems to happen at one point to someone, and that is unfortunately the story for this particular seed.
Yeah, that's right.
But as far as your run, I mean, of all four runners in this particular race, you were probably the one runner that I guess had the fewest examples of that. You always seem to at some point get like some item of progression to move on. You weren't hung up on one item for a really long time. On the other race, Finalflame unfortunately died to Cold Stare and didn't go back to Ice Palace for a bit. And ChauncyJay didn't pick up the Ice Rod for a while either. You were just kind of the one runner who didn't have basically an example like that. You always seem to make consistent and constant progress. So definitely GG for that, because this was a marathon of a seed.
Yeah, it was marathon indeed, and thank you for the GGs. I mean, I think I haven't had like execution wise, I haven't had a seed really like this in a while. I mean, again, my last match, I missed so many things. I died in a lot of stupid places, so I was really. I think the only moment when I was like in a struggle and I didn't at least, I mean, for me, I didn't like blew it was in Colster, because I died to Colter. I spent my fairy and I was praying like, oh please don't fuck up Colster. I mean, and it was like hammer, Colster, green mail, and what, like eight keys?
Yeah.
8 hearts. I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was definitely a rough thing to ask, and that was not just like, I mean, that fight's already pretty difficult as it is, even with more hearts, but like just green mail by itself is really, really scary. The vanilla game kind of intends for you to have blue mail at that point. And that was just the first dungeon that many of you completed in this seed, just going through Ice Palace. So yeah, every runner had to deal with that very rough fight.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I see that your collection rate is 168, which is fairly normal for a Keysanity. It's not that high. I think it's mostly just because Gannis Tower is straightforward.
Yeah, it had to be Gannis Tower, because I feel like I like checked almost everything. I mean, it was like an old dungeons seed, and well, besides like tablets, because we don't have the book or mushroom that we don't have like from the witch hut, and one item in Schoolwoods, because I don't think anyone found the Schoolwoods big key.
You're right, no one did.
That and Quake, but I'm sorry. And that and all Ganon's Tower. I mean, thought that was gonna be a collection rate like higher for everyone.
Yeah, I think another thing that a lot of people kind of forget about when it comes to the item collection rate is that there are some items like items you see on ledges or that are on the ground. A lot of people kind of don't take those into consideration. If you count those, because you technically see what they are, yeah, it would probably be a little bit higher. So that could be a factor as well.
Yeah. I think this had like a lot of that kind of items. I mean, Checkerboard Cave, Desert Ledge, Sora's Ledge, and almost every spot with those items that you can check and skip. Almost every of those spots were like non-progression items.
But yeah, like one thing that was definitely like a big topic was obviously near the end of the seed. What were your thoughts on the small key to Thieves Town, which led to the powder, which led to the final big key that you needed?
I was just praying for something for progression, because if those spots were not the progression item, then I was fucked up. Like, because it was the last place I checked, and I don't, and like, for example, if small key from Thieves Town was nothing, then I clearly don't know where else to check.
Yeah, you can bet that chat was all over the idea of having Powder lead to one of the other fetch quest items, which would lead to another one of the other fetch quest items. We get the big key at the very end of that giant rabbit hole. But thankfully, it stopped the insanity a little early, but still, just the fact that you had to backtrack all the way there is just a major inconvenience. But thankfully, I believe you were the... Actually, it may have been the second one to get the big key. I think that WinDEU did have that at that point, but still, you're able to find it soon enough to finish up and still get first in this race.
Yeah, I mean, I at one point, I think when I had the Thieves Town small key, I was also thinking like, oh my god, this is gonna be Swan big key to Skullwood's big key to like everywhere in the world.
Yeah. That's what chat was hoping for, that's for sure.
Of course,
Classic.
chat always hopes that.
Yeah, classic Keysanity chat.
Once more, I'll say congratulations on your win. It's still a very nice win to have, considering the seed, how it played out. I mean, Keysanity for sure does take more time than most modes in this game, so having upwards of 2 hours is not bad. It's like we said, a pedestal seed, all dungeons, and just the way it was arranged. So yeah, great time.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, this is my first win, and I'm really happy to have a win. I entered this tourney with not much experience. I mean, I participate in the secondary tourney for the fall open mode, and I also get only one win, so I'm kind of tied in that area. But I just want to have the experience and improve, like, from seed to seed.
Hey, that's what you need to improve, right? You just need to play more and have fun doing it.
Yeah, I'm definitely having fun playing Randomizer. I loved it.
Well, that's a great mindset to have, and especially for some of these seeds like this one, very, very great outlook. So again, GG, and it's great to have you in this tournament.
Thank you so much. GG's also.
Okay, so
go ahead.
I was just gonna say that ChauncyJay is on the Ganon fight now. Unfortunately, did take a death, so Finalflame is going to be able to catch up a little bit, but I don't know. ChauncyJay will have to fall or die a few more times to make it a bit more even, and I don't see that happening. Usually, after one death, you kind of get into that mode where it's like, okay, I need to relax a little bit. I need to kind of focus on this and just make sure I don't keep dying, because I am still in this race.
Yeah, especially when your opponent hasn't finished, you really start wondering, oh, how far is he from me? And after more than 2 hours and a half, you start really wonder, like, oh, is he just like a few seconds behind me? Is he like more than half an hour behind me? You can't really know.
That's true, and unfortunately, I am looking at the race chat right now. WinDEU has officially forfeited at this point. Again, just that Mimic Cave location just completely eluding him. May have accidentally marked it as him checking that, so he is going to take a forfeit on that. Very, very understandable. It can get very mind melding, just kind of trying to think over the entire seed, and this is a marathon seed as it was, just trying to find that item. And as that happens, ChauncyJay also finishes his race, so GG's to him.
Yep, with an official time of 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 12 seconds. It was well done on him.
And just as Finalflame enters the Aghanim 2 fight.
Hey there, ChauncyJay. How's it going?
It's a lot better now. Oh my goodness.
Okay, so which part of the race was if you had to pick one part of the race, because there were a lot of bad moments in this, what was the most frustrating, I guess I'll put it?
The most frustrating was probably the, what was it, Pod, Turtle Rock, Tower of Hera loop. I think I ended up going into Turtle Rock 5 times by the time I completed it. But you had to like get keys out of all 3 of each of the dungeons to complete all of the dungeons. And that was, I didn't know if I was doing something wrong or if I was playing it out of order, but man, that was probably the most frustrating part.
Yeah, for sure. And like it honestly felt like all the different aspects of the seed definitely got to all 4 runners at different points for different scenarios too. So this was quite literally a marathon of a seed in all aspects, I'd say. Yeah,
you seem to get items in really big chunks all in one dungeon. Like Tower of Hera was a perfect example. There was 3 key items in there, not including the first time you went in for the sword and the flippers, I think. And then Meyer had a ton of stuff. Meyer had boots. It had mirror. It was just insane. And you would go, 40 minutes sometimes without getting anything, checking all the places that you can check, and then finally getting the one item that would let you go into whatever dungeon.
Yeah, for sure. Very quickly, we are going to bring WinDEU in here. Hello, WinDEU. GG, how are you feeling after all of this?
I'm feeling good except for the pod big key. Just give it to me straight. Where was it?
Mimic Cave.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out what dips were required and the back and forth involved with all that. Because the mirror alone was a treat.
Yeah, I think we were pretty much talking about that just because before you came in. The whole loop of everything that was on Death Mountain, and let's talk about all the items that were in Tower of Hera.
Yeah. What was it? Flute and Basement, I think.
Yeah, Flute and Basement, a sword upgrade in the other part of Basement, the bow and the big key chest, the green pendant which led to the ice rod. Yeah, there was a lot in there. Oh, and the flute that was just in the lobby room.
Yeah, was it the flute was... No, the flippers were in the lobby,
flippers,
right?
Oh, yeah. Flippers, my bad. Yeah, the flippers.
Yeah, Hera was loaded. Yeah, I just... when I finally got the mirror, I was just like, really? Because to get the flute, you had to get the Hera basement key, which was in the purple chest. So you had to save and quit twice to get it.
Yeah, and then the flute led to the mirror and Meyer. Oh man, I didn't even think of any of that stuff. It was just like, well, I have 4 more locations I could check now. Let's go check them and see where we're going next. Just so you know, WinDEU, after the pod big key, you fight Helmasaur, and then the chain starts in Turtle Rock actually. So when you kill the Turtle Rock boss, which was from Green Pendant Ice Rod, then you get the Thieves Town small key, so you can go get the powder, so you can go get the Eastern big key.
WinDEU actually did get that. Like he got the big key to Eastern. Oh. It was the big key to Pod that he didn't have, which was in Mimic Cave. Helmasaur didn't really. Helmasaur didn't have anything, so.
Yeah, that was just the order that I did it in. Oh my goodness.
It was a bit unfortunate that it happened this way, but I would say that if it weren't for that Mimic Cave incident, you would be quite close, actually, to JohnRossums' overall WinDEU. I think you were maybe a minute or two behind at most.
Oh wow, that's good to know.
So really, it's sad to see that only a small location like that got out of your sight, but in the same time, it does show that Rando does not forgive when you forget a location.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's all it takes, especially inside of Keysanity.
Okay, we are going to have to wrap this up very soon. Super Mario Odyssey is on deck pretty much, so unfortunately we will not have an interview with Finalflame. Hate to say it, but we do need to kind of wrap things up. But of course, definitely major shout-outs to all of the runners involved in this particular marathon of a seed. This was insane, and it was really, really entertaining and crazy to watch it all play out, because literally every runner was stuck on one different thing, and it just was really crazy how it just kind of the result came to be. So definitely major shout outs to the runners, major shout outs to both of our trackers, Itsu Demo and KK the Egyptian. Major thank you to the Speed Gaming crew for setting up the restreaming, and of course major thank you to my co-com partner, Dynasty Zero. It was a lot of fun and crazy to watch this seed unfold, but I'm glad you were here for the ride as well.
Yeah, it was quite an interesting seed to commentate, and as always, it's always fun to do it. So it was really fun to do it with you too, Slim Kirby.
Okay, so with that, I guess we are going to sign out. Thanks to everyone for watching. It was a pleasure, and we will catch you on the flip side for more randomizer matches to come. There's a lot of races just this week, so definitely check out the schedule and join us for some more randomizer in the future. See you guys later.
Yep, see you guys later, and happy Valentine's.
That too.